Alright, a little update here. I'm a little reluctant. Just finished up some yard work and then went for a walk, and it's hot and humid. I'm all sweaty and out of breath and such. Spirit's like, here, this is the spot. This is the camera angle. Do it. So here we are. Because that is how it works. That is how it goes. And the message today, this Freya's Day. And anyone who's been watching knows that I've been going through, at least for myself, a process of thinking about the days differently, about thinking of them not from the aspect of the calendar we've received of the days of the weeks, but really recapturing what feels like for me an older ancestry, and so Freya. And I've talked before about how Freya is very connected to, really, Freya is an earthly name of a much older motherly energy, an energy of no lack at all, an energy of absolute abundance through all phases of life and all situations of life. And so that's what's been coming through. And it's honestly, it's strange, because I've gone through a period of a lot of abundance, personally, socially, and so on. And sometimes when you come through, certain things like that, you have a bit of a falling off period, a bit of a feeling of lack and such. And so it's been a bit of a struggle of that this week, of just trying to figure out, okay, where am I? What am I doing? Getting back to projects. And, also this idea of just dealing with, we can think of abundance as potentiality, right? We don't have to have it in our hands. The critters, they go around, the wild critters, they go around the world, the earth, and some of them store things up, but a lot of them don't do a whole lot of that. A lot of them just live day by day and sort of assume abundance is there. And they take up residence where they are, and they feast on the abundance that's there. And if they need to move, they move to where there is abundance. And I don't think they experience worry in the same way that human beings are constantly experiencing worry. And worry in that way is an assumption of need, an assumption that there's going to be lack. And I've been talking about this. There's a negative version of the feminine energy is convinced that there's lack coming, and that much must be stored up and much must be kept from anyone else because there's not enough. And the whole world has been caught up in this at a time when we actually have the most abundance the world has ever had for thousands of years at least. So the irony is huge, right? Like, the absolute most abundance, ability to feed everyone, ability to take care of everyone, ability to solve so many more problems than we've ever been able to solve before, even as we're also creating new ones. That's a different topic. And yet this lasts basically since around 2008, 2009. In the US, we had a real estate crash, and then we had the worldwide financial crash. Ever since then, we've been told by the people in charge saying, there's not enough. So the word austerity, right? And this is interesting, because this is not what I thought this video was going to be about, but it's turning out to be about this. That's not Freya. Freya's here to say there's enough. There's enough. The question is, how are you going to organize everything? The question is, how are you going to get it to everyone? The question is, are you just going to decide to do that? Freya has three faces: the mother, the maiden, and the crone. The three phases of life. And this is particularly a feminine look at it, but it's for everyone. It's for everyone, okay? Everyone has a feminine and a masculine energy inside of them, a receiving energy, a sense of fertility and fruitfulness from the receiving end, and then also a sense of fertility and fruitfulness from a giving perspective. The masculine energy, the feminine energy are more directional than anything, right? Like, which way are things flowing? And a healthy person has a mixture of both. You're not just in one or the other, and you don't need to be, and you don't even need to name it. You don't need to call it this or that. There's so much confusion about, and I'm not criticizing anyone in this, because I know plenty of people who've been on this journey of, what are my pronouns, and maybe I need to change my name, and maybe I'm more masculine than the femininity that was put on me, and maybe I'm more feminine than the masculinity that was put on me, and so on. And that's totally cool. I'm not talking against that. But what I am saying is actually the exact opposite. There's so much freedom. And Freya carries that sense of freedom of who are you, what are you, what do you want to be, and living in a world where you're assuming abundance for yourself to be who you are, rather than becoming or maintaining what someone else has asked you to be, told you to be, forced you to be, constrained you to be. Otherwise, you won't have enough to live, because that's how this world has been run and controlled. And we're moving out of that. And so that's what this message is really about. So 646, sixes are very important right now. It's coming through. And the 4 is very important as well. Fours are stable, but they're very closed in on themselves. So a 646 is having gone through a place of being closed in on self to now back to a 6, which is still stable, right? Even number, but it's also foundational. It's able to be built upon. 4s are just for ourselves. 6s are for community. 6s are for others as well. And so that's what we're coming into a time of, is building little communities. And some of these may be online and virtual. Some of these may be in person, local. They may be communities that come together for brief moments, almost like festivals and conferences and meetings. But there's really energy for that. There's really energy for this, of doing things differently, of being in the world differently, and doing that together, not separately. So that's really what's coming through. Okay, so now we're going to come back to what I thought we were getting to, which is something that's been coming up, is this idea of togetherness. And when you look back at previous videos, I've talked about, this idea of the dimensions, and they get called densities also. It's another way of looking at it. And there's been this idea of we're moving into the 5th dimension, and I've talked a lot about wait, what about the 4th dimension? Don't miss the 4th dimension. Most of us have been stuck in the 3rd dimension. We're now just going to skip through the 4th to the 5th, and by the way, you can't live in the 5th anyway, because if you think you can, you don't even understand it. The 4th dimension is timelines and your own personal timeline, right? Recognizing where you've been, what it meant when you were there, being able to re-access that, to redetermine what that means now from a different perspective. This also then starts to bring in the idea of past and future lifetimes, which are accessible via the 4th dimension, because it's just time and awareness, consciousness in time and space. That's what a life is. A life is a particular distortion of consciousness pared down to a particular identity at a particular time and space for a particular amount of that time in a particular parts of that space, wherever that consciousness happened to go and happened to touch. That's it. That's life as we know it. It's not all of life, but it's life as we know it. On the 3D, if you will, plane, the Earth plane. There's a lot of coming together that's possible. There's a lot of coming together that's being encouraged from within ourselves, from outside of ourselves. And a lot of this is good. And what this is going to bring up is, because we've done a lot of healing, but a lot of that healing has been in that 4 energy. I'm in my own little space, right? And as we move to that 6 energy, that's moving back to people getting together again. And that's a different energy. That's an energy of closeness. And how close can we get? And what's too close? How close is too close for comfort? What are the arrangements of this closeness? It turns out when I get closer with you, I don't like you as much, and vice versa. All these types of things are going to come up. And we need to be very careful that we don't slip back into a 4, the energy of the 4 here. Oh, I had a bad experience, so therefore I'm going to clam up, right? Because in fact, things haven't healed and the world isn't safe, and that gets us back into the lack mentality, right? The world's not safe. There is no abundance. There's no abundance of love. There's no abundance of safety, and therefore I must clam up, right? And it's Cancer season, so this is very, that is the Cancer energy, right? The Cancer energy can go between the two a bit, and sort of, oh, I'm wide open and I'm soft and fleshy, and oh, you hurt me, climb up. At least as a very shallow understanding of the Cancer energy, because that's not nearly all that there is. In any case, this is something to be aware of, and the image that's been coming up is the idea of bubbles. And this idea of, my kids like to talk about this every once in a while, nothing ever really touches in the physical reality. Nothing actually ever really touches. Science knows this, that the closer you get, right? The closer even my fingers get to touching each other, they can't actually push through a certain barrier where they would actually touch. And that's a reality. And so there's a certain amount of negotiation here. And the image of bubbles carries then that image of bursting bubbles, right? Not bursting each other's bubbles, of letting each other's understandings, which are different, coexist. Bubbles can actually form up, be next to each other, and be quite comfortable with each other, and fill all kinds of different spaces, right? Think of suds, think of a bubble bath, think of anything like that. But within that, we can also burst bubbles. So we have to be careful. And those of us who maybe are sharp personalities, those of us who are maybe a lot up here and not a lot down here, we need to work on that. The heart-mind connection, where it's balanced, so that our communicating is balanced with each other, and there's not too much sharpness. The right amount of sharpness. I'm not saying no sharpness. I'm saying the right amount of sharpness. 1326. This is about, there's a certain kind of death of self going on right now. There's a certain amount of, a certain then rebirth of self, because there is no death except to be reborn. That's what death is. It's a process of rebirth. It's a process of reworking, repositioning, repurposing, and so on. Recultivating, resurrecting, recycling, all these things. So, yeah. It's probably uncomfortable right now. And this relates to the previous message earlier in the week, which is about plateauing. There's a plateau period right now, and I've been receiving this too. Like there's a calm, even in the midst of all kinds of things going on in the world. There's a calm, and there's a breathing space that we've actually achieved something collectively that's really amazing in a year that really really could have gone haywire. And I'm not saying for some of us it's not feeling like it's going haywire. I know that it is, and that there are a lot of people who are in dire circumstances around the world. But what I'm saying is, comparatively to what a certain kind of energy in the world wanted 2024 to be like, we're winning. Energetically, that's not the way things are going. Energetically, there's a shift that has happened. Energetically, the tide has turned. Energetically, the masses are not at all about to run off a cliff. The masses are like sitting down in the grass with their legs crossed and their arms crossed, going, And it's a very much wait and see energy, and that what that's doing is it's providing this space, this plateau space. And there's a lot of milling about happening. And that's this 646 energy. We haven't had this in a while. This ability to sit here and think and reflect, but also mill about. This isn't like the pandemic, right? When everyone's stuck in their houses. This is different. This is about parties. This is about get-togethers. This is about sharing energy, sharing food, sharing laughs, sharing good times, being with your people, getting back with people that you haven't been with, all these types of things. All this stuff is not just, it's encouraged. There's energy for it. And you don't have to feel, it doesn't need to feel directed, like it's pointed in a direction and trying to achieve a goal, right? It's just there for the togetherness of it, for the building of certain energetic foundations and positive cords between us. There's been a lot about cord cutting, and there's this almost there's a negative energy within the spiritual community about cord cutting, okay, which is just like, you shouldn't be connected to anything or anyone. And it's just like, no, that's not reality. That's not reality. Like, you can never actually completely cut a cord. You are always in a relationship with anything else. What you can do is, for your part, right, not be energetically overtied to that. Okay? I have people in my life that I have cut cords with, and it's been very healthy for me. But I mean, as soon as I say that, they come into my mind. There's still a relation there. It's just a changed relation. So we need to be careful with what we imagine these things to be, because there's a very unhealthy place that one can get to where it's just all of a sudden you've cut down, and this is very much literally a curse in my family. That's a very strong word, but it's I'm not talking about like double toil and trouble type curse. I'm just, there's a mental trap, right? Some people think of this as an implant or a blueprint. There's a lot of different terms for this in the spiritual community, and all those terms are distortions in themselves that are both helpful and harmful depending on where we take them. This is to say that when you take that aspect of cord cutting to its logical result, if it's all you're in is that energy, eventually you're going to have cut yourself out of so many people's lives, and it's not going to be good for you. It's a dismal, dark place to end up in. And 646 energy is saying we're not in that energy. We are heading towards something different collectively. And it is not about separation. It's about coming together with who we can come together. Finding ways to agree with those we can agree with. Not that we have to agree about everything, but finding ways to come up with agreements, to come up with relationships, to come up with situations, living situations, working situations, producing situations. There are all these types of things. Activity, human activity that is very different. And I don't know what it's going to look like. It's not up to me to decide, except for those collectivities that I'm in. And just saw 1938. We are in doubles territory all over the place. That's a whole other batch of numbers. 38 is an amazing number. maybe that'll be another video. For now, sending you a lot of love and peace, all the light you can stand. Please do reach out if you need some support, if you have energies that you're trying to deal with and it's a lot. I'm here for that. I've worked with people through a lot of different energies. I've worked through my own energies, and nothing's ever complete and all done. But that is to say that, yeah, there's a listening ear here if needed. Look in the video description, and otherwise appreciate liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing. Head over to my Instagram and check me out there. And I'm going to try and be posting more there soon. And also going to try to be getting back to writing some things and posting some things on Medium, the platform Medium. So lots of things hopefully in the works as I do get through this time period of a lot of busyness. So, all right, hang in there. See you soon.